are back. And again, I am Vince Seegers, and I am with me today is Leanne Smiley, Home Health Administrator. Welcome, Leanne.
Hi, Vince. Nice to be here today.
Yes. So you're going to talk home health, and I'm just going to let you talk for a while.
Okay. I'm the clinical manager for Certified Home Health. We are a team of nurses and therapists who can provide care to residents who may have been in the hospital or in an extended care facility like Garden Ridge. Doctors also refer patients to us who have an acute onset of something. So something's happened, they've got sick, they maybe will need some nursing care for a very short period of time, or they will need some therapy in the home because they can't get out and about to go to therapy. So I have 4 nurses who work with us. I also have 4 physical therapists. I have 3 occupational therapists now and 2 speech therapists, as well as a home health aide and an office coordinator. And so our team is well known around the community because they're out and about all day, pulling the rolly bags along, so that they can be seeing up to about 6 patients a day within their homes. So.
Yeah. Stella saw me recently. Is Stella part of you? She's
Stella is part of my team.
And John Smith.
Yeah. Unfortunately, John is no longer with us.
He isn't. Okay.
He moved on to try some other areas of nursing that he was looking forward to. So Stella is holding our nursing caseload at the moment, but she does have the support of several staff who come in when needed. So Cheryl and Sally and Amin are around the community helping Stella at the moment. And Amin is actually a new nurse. She is working with us on the weekends, so she's helping to cover some of those weekends so that Stella can have that time off. So we are happy to have her on board, and that was a very difficult position for us to fill. So we're very excited about that. And we also have a new occupational therapist who started this week. Her name is Dolores Witchner, and she actually will provide some relief for our occupational therapists for when they go on vacations. And she has another job working with children in the school system, so for her this is a nice opportunity to come and use her skills here with a different population.
Sure. By the way, just off the subject, I guess, what makes me think you're from the UK or from Ireland or from Australia?
Australia is where I'm
from. Sure.
We've lived here for almost 20 years. So I guess my accent is a blend of both at this point in time. I moved here in 1997 with my husband and 2 young children at the time. Those young children are now grown up and
it's been 19 years since you came.
So I do have a son that lives in Colorado and another son that actually moved back to Australia. So he moved back a couple of years ago, and then my youngest, who was born here, she is in high school. So
the therapist, the on-campus, if you go over to Garden Ridge, there are therapists there. That's not part of your domain.
No, it's not. What we do is we fill a really vital gap after maybe someone comes out of Garden Ridge, but before they can go to outpatient therapy. Because what often happens is when you come out of the hospital or you come out of Garden Ridge, you're feeling weak, you can't get up and about, and you can't move the way that you would like to move. That's where our staff really provide an essential service. And Medicare covers that, as do some commercial insurances, as long as you're homebound. So it does require that you're not out and about in the community other than for meals and doctor's appointments. Once you're getting to the point where you are feeling better and you can get out and about and you can get yourself off to therapy, we do make a referral to outpatient therapy at that time for continued therapy if needed.
And excuse me, how long typically, for instance, Stella was with me for a week, I think, and she decided that I didn't need any further, I could get out. But how long does one of your staff members stay with a patient?
It really depends on circumstances of that admission. Sometimes we might be in there for only a week because we're just there to make sure someone's safe at home. Maybe their medications from the hospital are all sorted out and questions answered. But sometimes we're in there, for long periods of time. We have patients that we've cared for a number of years at this point because their needs are still covered by that Medicare benefit. maybe they have a catheter or something and they need that changed frequently. So they tend to be our longer term. But normally our episodes range from about a week to 8 weeks.
Yes. I had a question, I've forgotten what it was. If a patient needs clock around, is that something you provide?
That's actually not what we can do, but
sure.
we work very closely with home support
Sure.
on people who need that 24-hour care.
Yeah.
Quite often someone who doesn't have maybe family around or who truly needs some assistance within their apartment will have 24-hour care, even if it's just for a short period
Sure.
of time when they come home. Our nurses and therapists work very closely with home support to ensure that the plan of care that we put together, the exercises that the therapist might be recommending or things like pressure relief that the nurses may be working on, are carried forth into the care plans of our home support team. So we're very fortunate here that we can work as closely as we do with another group that can provide that essential care that's needed around the clock.
Sure. Even after 5 years here, I tend to confuse home health with home support. And I was going to suggest that maybe for new residents particularly, you might explain the difference. You probably already have, haven't
No,
you?
that's fine. I can definitely do that.
Yeah.
And actually the two names are very confusing and
Sure.
they're very close together. Home health is actually a program that works mainly with Medicare, but also commercial insurance to pay for needs that are short-term, intermittent and skilled. So there has to be a reason for a skilled nurse or a skilled therapist to go in. We also work very closely with the physician of the patient, who is the one that works with us on what that plan of care looks like, how many visits we do, the type of treatments that we can do during that period of time. That is 100% covered by Medicare if you are a Medicare recipient, as long as we can say that you're homebound and your needs are skilled and justifiable from a medical perspective. Home support is a private pay system.
Sure.
And unfortunately, Medicare doesn't cover what is called custodial care. That is long-term, ongoing care where there's not an opportunity for improvement.
Yeah.
And so people will contract individually with home support
Sure.
for the care that they need, and that can range anything from 1 hour to 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But that is the full responsibility of the client that works with them for the financial costs.
Yeah. I think I have someone myself right now. I recently came out of the hospital. And she is an independent contractor outside of, and I guess the argument that I often hear is that you can kind of depend on that same person being there every single day, whereas otherwise you may see a different face if it's home support. It may be someone different on a day-to-day.
And our home support team fills a very different gap sometimes to those outside agencies. Outside agencies require generally a minimum of 2 to 4 hours of care for someone. So for someone who might need those longer periods of time, there's a number of options, and home support can definitely help with that. For someone who maybe just needs that 1 hour a day in the morning and 1 hour in the evening or 1 hour at lunchtime, most outside agencies cannot help with those type of care.
Sure.
But, I'm not the expert on home support, but they definitely can provide the range of things from medication reminders to aids to help with bathing, to go in and be companions. We have a team of companions within home support, and they don't actually provide any client care, but they're there to be of assistance and to be a companion. And so our home support team also has nurses, and nurses can go in and help people with medications and long-term needs such as tube feedings or anything else that might come up. So again, our home support service offers a very wide range of services in comparison with other agencies, and it's always going to be the choice of the client as to who they choose. And one of the challenges that we have is finding wonderful aides, and we're very strict on our aides.
Yes.
coming in. So,
Sure.
our employment process vets the aides. So when we bring someone in, we know they've been drug screened, we know that they've passed the background check, we know that we've got good references on them.
Yes.
And then we can also look at what their training looks like. So again, we provide significant training for all our team members, whether they're home support, hospice,
Yes.
or home health. And
Yeah. Yeah, my wife was in hospice for 3 months, and the care was excellent. It was
we
very,
do. We have
very
a
good.
fabulous hospice team, and
Sure.
unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how that circumstance comes about, there are times when we work very closely with hospice as well, because we may have a home health patient that decides with the assistance of their family to make that transition to the hospice program for comfort measures, and at that time, we do stop the therapy, we do stop a lot of those active type treatments, so a transition is a natural progression.
Sure. What I experienced was a tremendous sense of relief when Marianne went into hospice, just knowing that this kind of support is available to you.
And I do believe that's the important part about, our hospice program, is that they're people that are familiar with Green Spring. They know what happens and what supports are available through the community.
Yeah.
And they are there 24 hours a day to provide the support not only to the person they're looking after, but also to the family members. And that continues even after someone has passed.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. We're getting down. We've got a couple of minutes left, so I'm curious now, Leanne. How did you get here from Australia? What brought you here?
We came in 1997. At the time, I had 2 small children, and my husband was looking for some sort of adventure with work. We
Yes.
came to visit some friends in Denver for a holiday. So we took the kids to Disney World and went to Denver. And while we were in Denver, he was offered a position.
Really?
And
Yes.
so we went back to Australia, did all the legal stuff that has to happen to come, and moved back to Denver 3 months later.
Yes.
Our intention initially was to come for 3 years and stay.
Yeah.
We were in Denver 16 years in the end.
Really?
And we are now US citizens.
Sure.
So in that time, we had another child, and so our family was complete, and we loved raising our children in Colorado. It was a great place to raise our children. We moved out here just over 3 years ago. Our children were making their own marks in the world.
Yes.
And we decided that when my husband was offered an opportunity to transfer with his company, that this would allow us the opportunity to explore this part of the United States.
Yes.
And I have to admit, we use a lot of our weekends out in the
Sure.
national parks and and all over the place. So it's also a wonderful place. I would say my hobby is travel, and it's also a wonderful place to hop off onto a plane to go somewhere and get there relatively quickly as well.
Now, you get back to Australia, though, do you?
I do. I try and get back at least every 2 years. It's becoming a little more frequent as my parents are getting older, because I definitely want to be there for them and support them. The advances in technology since we first moved here have been pretty significant. When we first moved here, it was 1 phone call a week home, and it was a very expensive proposition at that time.
Oh, yes.
Now, my mother and I FaceTime and text every day. We're on Skype, we're on phone, and so those conversations are very frequent. So I feel like that I am with my mother and my parents, and so that we can interact. So that's helped, I think, bridge some of that distance.
Yeah.
But I still think, there's a need to be present, and I'm very fortunate that, my family still travels significantly, so they come and visit us. So
good.
I don't need to go back quite as frequently as I would if they weren't traveling.
Good. All right, we're coming down to the end here. Any final thoughts that you have?
Yeah, one of the things I did want to mention was we're in summer, and just for people to be very careful with the heat. We are going through a heat wave, so if you're out walking, please stay within the hallways of the community. Outside it's hot and muggy. Please stay hydrated. One of the reasons that we see people in home health is dehydration.
Yes.
So again, making sure that you get at least 4 to 5 glasses of water a day, not coffee, not tea, not diuretic type drinks like cola or anything else.
Water or some equivalent.
We do.
Liquid.
And so in this heat, let's just look after each other and our neighbours.
All right, very good. I thank you for coming. This was fun.
Thank you.
We'll do this again. I do have some announcements to make.